Good morning and welcome to First Parish in Needham Unitarian Universalist. I am Jessie Bowen, Chair of the Music Committee. First Parish is a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1711 along with the town of Needham. We are proud to be certified as a welcoming congregation for our inclusivity of people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and expressions. As a green sanctuary for our commitment to addressing the climate crisis, and as a Level 2 sanctuary supporting congregation for our work in immigration reform and anti-deportation efforts. Whether you are a first-time visitor or a lifelong member, you can learn more about all that's happening at First Parish by going to our website, uuneedham.org, or following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. As you know, what's happening right now at the congregation is very different than usual because of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Our building is closed and we are gathering online only, as is recommended by health officials and local government. We will plan to follow the lead of school closures to make decisions about when we will again gather in person. We encourage everyone to engage with one another through video and phone calls during this time, and keep connected even as we keep our distance. Our Sunday services are pre-recorded by our wonderful staff and worship volunteers, and streamed on Sunday morning so we can all enjoy the familiar routine of spending Sundays together. Our First Parish community has gotten creative about how we can stay in touch and renew our spirits without meeting in person. And we hope you have been plugging into our Zoom gathering opportunities throughout the week. For example, you are invited to our Zoom social hour directly following this worship. Please find the link in your Saturday Bell Notes email. If you're joining us for the first time this Sunday, or you don't know what we're talking about when we refer to the Saturday Bell Notes or the emailed order of service, you can sign up to be included in those emails next week by going to our website, uuneedham.org, and clicking Get Involved, Newsletter, or sending your request to office@uuneedham.org. We know this way of worshiping and gathering together is an adjustment for all of us. However, our sincere hope and prayer is that these online services and connection opportunities will help us keep the physical distance required during this coronavirus pandemic without losing much of the spiritual, emotional, and social closeness we treasure in our faith community. Our guest preacher today is Matt Meyer. Matt is a sought-after speaker whenever Unitarian Universalists gather to deepen their worship and explore their faith. He has led worship for convocations at several seminaries and has been worship leader and worship presenter for numerous UU national gatherings. Matt works professionally as a UU musician and preacher, having led hundreds of services for UU congregations around the country. He has a degree in hand drumming from Berklee College of Music and has studied abroad in Cuba, Ghana, and Central America. Matt has a long background of activism and organizing for social and economic justice. He is a founding member and director of Community Life at the Sanctuary Boston. Matt is also a founding member of the Lucy Stone Cooperative and is a dedicated knitter. Welcome again to all, and good morning.
We light our chalice this morning, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, with words from African-American writer Mickey Scott Bay Jones, known to many as the Justice Doula. These are her words. Invitation to brave space. Together we will create brave space, because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars. We have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together. And we will work on it, side by side. In addition to our chalice, we light this symbolic second flame. The federal government is taking advantage of this pandemic to attempt to disestablish Native American lands here in Massachusetts. This Sunday, May 3rd, we have been asked to light sacred fires in solidarity with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe in a prayer protest. On May 7th, a judge will hear Mashpee pleas for the safeguarding of their last 321 acres. We at First Parish stand with the Mashpee Wampanoag.
I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion and the winds of steady change and the ever-rolling ocean all moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion and the winds of steady change and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion and the winds of steady change and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion and the winds of steady change and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion and the winds of steady change and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion and the winds of steady change solid ground until I saw the earth in motion.
Please join me in reading our covenant, which you will find in the order of service, which was emailed to you yesterday for today's service. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
Miriam was just about to begin the 4th grade, and she was thrilled because Miriam loved music, and at her school, 4th grade was the year that every student got to learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra. So on the first day of class, she walked into the orchestra room early, and she looked around at all of the beautiful instruments, wondering which one she would get to play. There was the giant bass drum, beautiful violins, shiny brass trumpets. She saw her teacher, Miss Berman, there. She said, "Here I am. What instrument do you need me to play in the orchestra?" Said Miss Berman. "Miriam, right? I think I've got just the instrument for you." She disappeared into her office and came out a moment later with a tambourine. "A tambourine?" said Miriam. "Is that even an instrument?" "Well, of course," said Miss Berman. "Every great orchestra needs a great tambourine player, and you are our tambourine player." Well, Miriam took the tambourine, but all day long for the entire rehearsal, she just ended up playing the same rhythm over and over and over. It went dot 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 dot. Can you try that? Well, the next day she came back to class, and all day long for the entire rehearsal, it was that same rhythm all over again. Dot 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 dot. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the whole rest of the week, she just played that same rhythm over and over and over. It went dot 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 dot. Well, you might have guessed that Miriam was not any more excited about the tambourine at the end of the week than she had been at the beginning. That Sunday when she went to church with her family, she was feeling pretty sad about it. She sat down in her Sunday school class and and her teacher, Mahesh, noticed she was looking down. He asked her about it. She said, "Well, I was so excited to learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra, but I ended up with the tambourine and I just played the same rhythm all week long. It went da-da-da-da-da-da." Well, Mahesh said, "You know, where I come from, we call the tambourine a kanjira. My family is from southern India, and there, well, people spend their whole lives learning to master the kanjira. And it's a beautiful instrument. Every sound that you can make on the kanjira, well, it has a way that you can sing it. So people, well, they sing out the rhythms, the sounds of the kanjira. Takita-tum, dengi, na-tum-tum, ta-tum. People put these rhythms, put these sounds together, and well, they write whole books of poetry of the rhythms of the kanjira. Where I come from, the tambourine is an instrument for creating poetry and beauty in the world." "Poetry and beauty," Miriam said. "Well, that doesn't sound so bad." After church, all the adults were running around coffee hour while Miriam sat by herself. A family friend came and sat with her, Anna. Anna remembered. She said, "This was the week you were going to start school and you were going to learn to play an instrument and play in the orchestra. How's it going?" "Well," Miriam said, "I ended up with the tambourine and I just play the same rhythm all week long. It goes da-da-da-da-da-da." "The tambourine?" Anna said. She said, "Did you know that where my family is from in Brazil, we call it a pandeiro? And people have been playing the pandeiro for generations and generations in Brazil. In fact, when my ancestors came to Brazil as enslaved people," she said, "they would play the pandeiro as a way of bringing their community together, to be together and take care of each other when times were so difficult. And they would even use the music of the pandeiro to secretly practice martial arts to protect themselves against the people that held them as slaves. Where I come from, well, the tambourine is an instrument for safety and for community." "Safety and community," Miriam said. "Well, that doesn't sound so bad." Well, Miriam was thinking about all of this when she went back to class the next day. She saw her teacher, Ms. Berman, there, and she told her about poetry and beauty and safety and community, but she said, "I don't know what any of that has to do with me. I'm still playing the same rhythm all week long that goes da-da-da-da-da-da." "Well," said Miss Berman. She said, "Miriam, do you know where your name comes from?" "Well, of course," she said. "Comes from my parents." "Well, that's right, but do you know who Miriam was?" She said, "In your family's history, there's a story of the ancient Israelites fleeing slavery and traveling to a land of freedom, a land of liberation. And while they were on that journey to freedom, they threw a wonderful celebration that they were on their way to a better place. And it was a woman named Miriam with a tambourine who got that celebration started. And women like Miriam would play in ancient Israel and all over the ancient world for weddings and festivals and celebrations. They would play the tambourine as a way of celebrating love and community. You know, in your family's history, the tambourine was a way of celebrating the journey towards freedom, the journey towards more love." "Love and freedom," Miriam said. "Well, that sounds pretty good." Now, eventually, Miriam went on to try out a lot of the other instruments in the orchestra. She played the bass drum and the violin. She played trumpet for a while, but she always remembered the story of the tambourine. How all around the world and all throughout history, people had taken even the simplest of instruments, whatever they had available to them, and found ways to use those tools to create poetry and beauty, to create community and safety, to celebrate the journey we're all trying to make towards love and freedom. And I think that's a little bit of what we do in our church communities is we come together, we are together not just to remind each other of the values that are most important to us, but to think together and even challenge each other to think about how we can use whatever instruments, whatever tools we have in our hands to shape the world around us and make this the kind of world that we want to live in together. So thank you for helping me with the story.
We've come to the time in our service when we share joys and concerns that are very close to our hearts and lives. In this new format, joys and sorrows are emailed to me by Thursday night, and I will share them aloud and light candles for you all. As we are making the link to our virtual Sunday services public and open to all visitors, be aware that we cannot guarantee that news shared in joys and concerns will stay within the First Parish community. So if you wish to share in a more private setting, I encourage you to reach out to me or to our Pastoral Care Associate of the Week, whose name is included in your emailed order of service. Let us now hear the joys and sorrows of our community. A Candle of Sorrow from Dan T. for his grandmother Ruth Sutro, a longtime member of First Parish who passed away peacefully on Monday at Brookfield Cushing Park in Framingham at the age of 95. A Candle of Sorrow from Dave B. for a close family friend, Ditta Lowy, who died this week. Ditta was 94 and a survivor of Auschwitz. Ditta's death was not COVID-related, and her son was allowed to be with her during her final hours. A Candle of Sorrow from Tabby R. for the death of fellow Wellesley alum and online friend Zoe Mungan, who died on Monday of COVID-19 at age 30. Also from Tabby, a candle of joy and relief for her second cousin Kim and Kim's wife Emily and their 6-year-old daughter Cameron, all of whom battled COVID-19 for more than a month, survived, and are now nearly fully recovered. A Candle of Joy from Vin and Becky K. with news that their son Peter and daughter-in-law Lizzie are expecting their first child, due in mid-October. A Candle of Joy from Byron D. for his wife Rana, who was just accepted as a transfer student to Suffolk University's Sawyer Business School for the fall. Rana is a first-generation college student, and her family is immensely proud that in just these past 3 years, she's obtained her GED, excelled at community college, and now will be going to business school at Suffolk. And I light one final candle for all the joys and sorrows that are still carried quietly in our hearts. During this time of physical separation, let us not forget that we are still deeply interconnected and bound together through mutual love, support, and commitment to each other.
Good morning. This congregation has been supported by the volunteer time and treasure of its members since 1711. In those 300 years, this community has seen some tough times, but we're still here. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of the church, offer to give what we can to build and sustain the world we envision. This month, our plate collection will be divided equally between First Parish and the Needham Diversity Initiative. The Needham Diversity Initiative is a local nonprofit committed to celebrating, exploring, and strengthening Needham's diversity. The organization organizes events throughout the year to advance its mission to create a sincerely welcoming town. Their events include the annual Needham Diversity Summit in October, the annual Needham Martin Luther King Day celebration in January, speakers, films, and performers. By donating today to First Parish and the Needham Diversity Initiative, you're helping to build a more vibrant and healthy community. To donate to today's offering, you can use our new Text to Give program. On your smartphone, put in the phone number 73256 and text that number UU Needham space plate space, then the $sign with the amount you'd like to give, all in one message. If you're putting in a donation for your annual pledge for 2020, please text that same phone number, 73256, with UU Needham Pledge 20, the $sign, and the amount you'd like to give toward your pledge. And if you miss those instructions, you should be able to find them in yesterday's emailed order of service. If you'd prefer to mail First Parish a check, please make a check out to First Parish in Needham, put May 3rd collection in the memo line, and then mail your check to 23 Dedham Avenue, Needham, Massachusetts, 02492. Thank you for everything you are able to give to support and sustain this congregation and our community partners. Please take this next few minutes to give what you can and know it will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Were our mouths as full of song as the sea? Were our mouths as full of song as the sea? Were our mouths as full of songs as the sea? We could not give thanks enough. Ilululu, finu, nunu, male, shirakayam. Ilululu, finu, nunu, male, shirakayam.
My life flows on in endless song above the Though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are ringing. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
For a few weeks now, I wake up every day feeling like I've arrived in a whole new and different world. Every day, a different place all over again. Every day, I'm trying to learn how to be in this different world all over again. There are articles to read, emotions to process, events to move online. Some of us are starting new hobbies and projects these days. Others are racing twice as fast as ever just to balance the work. This feeling of having a lot to learn, of setting my sights on new endeavors, is not new to me. It is probably not new to you. I start virtually every day of my life with a to-do list, a tentative list of things I want to get better at: exercise, healthy eating, meditation. The list goes on and on. Near the top of my list most days is writing. I am so dedicated to being a writer that every day I put writing on my to-do list. I'm so dedicated to it that every day I read books about writing and collect prompts so that I'll have a lot to write about when I do it. I'm so dedicated that every day I work on other things and finish other important tasks so that I'll have plenty of time to write. I am so dedicated that one of these days, surely, I will start writing. One of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, talks about how hard it is, in fact, to just sit down every day and write. She says, "The discouraging voices will hound you. This is all piffle," they will say. And they might be right. What you are doing may just be practice, but this is how you're going to get better. Some of the best writing advice I ever got was from a teacher who told me, "Don't write, just write what you would write if you were going to write." I haven't written anything since, but I've written a lot about what I would write if I did. You might call this the practice of practicing. The demons of perfectionism stand in the way of writing just as they stand in the way of creative risk-taking in general. Which is unfortunate because we know that creating a life for yourself that doesn't yet exist requires some creative risk-taking. And certainly building a world that does not yet exist will require setting aside the voices that hound us, saying it can't be done. The ones that say your efforts are just piffle. The demons of perfectionism are quick to confuse making a mistake with being a mistake, doing wrong with being wrong. While I'm no perfectionist, these demons still find a way to show up in my own life. My fear of saying the wrong thing too often keeps me from apologizing, even when I know I've hurt someone I love. In fact, they keep me from hard conversations of all kinds, speaking out against injustice, checking in on a friend who's grieving, all out of fear of not doing it right, of possibly making things worse. When the demons of perfectionism show up like this, I try to practice the practice of showing up. Practice the practice of speaking up. One of the requirements for all students at Berklee College of Music, where I attended, is 4 semesters of ear training. Learning how to sight sing music, by reading the notes on a page or learning how to transcribe a piece of music just by listening. Now, this new setting at the time, these new expectations felt like a whole new world. Sight singing in particular seemed an utterly impossible task when I began school there. I knew that there were people who were capable of this kind of magic, but it was certainly some kind of Harry Potter nonsense to me. Like you may as well ask me to make a feather float above my desk using my conductor's baton. Now, on the first day of ear training class, I remember there was a sort of nervous silence among the students there. Silence except for one student who was quite loud in his nervousness. This student interrupted the teacher in the first few minutes of class to share that he was worried he may be in the wrong place, that this class might be too advanced for him. He wanted to explain very clearly that he knew, in fact, not a single thing about ear training. The teacher paused his introductions to respond, saying that, well, we had all taken entrance exams and been placed, he was sure, in the appropriate class. The teacher tried to continue, but the man interrupted again. Well, is this the very lowest class? Because I need to be in the very lowest class. Our poor teacher looked around the room a little sheepishly. I could tell he didn't really want to answer that we were, in fact, yes, a class of the most very basic students. Well, it is Ear Training 101, so yes, it's just about the lowest, he said. There is, I guess, a class for people who have previously failed the 101, but this is just about as basic as it gets. Some of the other students in the class giggled a little at this man's anxieties. I was kind of glad to hear, though, that someone was questioning the absurd notion that sight singing could even be taught. I don't know what happened next for that student, but he never came back to our class. Not because anything we did on that first day was in fact too hard for him, but I think he lacked a belief that improvement was even possible. I kept going, thinking that if other folks had done this before, certainly it must be possible, and I made a commitment to at least practice the material, even if I never expected to master it. And eventually I made it through all 4 of those semesters, and although I never became great at it, I was competent enough. I've always remembered that student, though, who gave up before he started. It's not just that he didn't try to become a master at ear training, it's that he didn't even try the practicing of it, which always struck me as the real loss. When I don't yet know how to be the kind of person I want to be, when I don't yet know how to have hard conversations with ease, when I don't yet know how to do my part for climate change or immigration justice, or what my new role is in this new quarantined world. When the discouraging voices hound me, I sometimes think of that student and remind myself that maybe for now, this is just practice. Because practice is how we're going to get better. For now, I'll just practice sitting with the discomfort of new things. For now, I'll just practice sitting with the anxieties of an uncertain future. For now, I'll just practice making time for writing or learning a new recipe and learning more about the technologies of online connection. I'll practice calling my representative to suggest that social safety nets they're creating be made permanent. I won't do all of these things all of a sudden, once and for all, but I will practice the doing of them. The Boston Immigrant Justice Accompaniment Network, called Beyond, works in partnership with our immigrant neighbors to reduce the escalating harm of our violent and racist immigration system. One of their core values states, "We expect messiness, confusion, and discomfort, and we also choose courage and trust." When it's complicated and messy, courage and trust take practice. And it only takes a glance at the news these days to recognize that these are particularly messy and particularly complicated times. Musicians know as well as anyone else that muscle memory is real. That slow and consistent practicing changes the very structure of our brains, rewiring our circuitry. It forges new connections and new possibilities, particularly when the skills and the new ways of being are constantly demanded of us. No one is born a musician. Even songbirds need elder birds to sing to them and teach them the tunes. Practice doesn't make music perfect, but it makes music possible. There is research to suggest that professional musicians are not more naturally talented than anybody else at music. They just practice more, and they built the muscle memory for practicing itself. The muscle memory for picking up the instrument every day, for paying attention, for trying new things, for listening and responding to the music. The skill of practicing requires its own muscle memory, the practice of practicing. I want to learn to be an expert in listening. I want to practice responding with compassion when anxiety moves in the air like a storm. I want to be well practiced at creating brave space even when there is no such thing as safe space. These are daunting tasks, to be sure. On most days, learning to transcribe a symphony seems more manageable. But that's okay. For now, I don't have to do all of those things. I just need to practice what I would do if I were doing them. Fostering equitable relationships is complicated. Building beloved community is messy. When the world is changing fast, working for justice in small moments and in big systems is intimidating, to be sure. And so, when it's complicated and messy, courage and trust take practice. Let us practice the practicing of it. Practice won't make the world perfect, but it will make a better world possible. So, beloveds, don't promise to be your best self today. Just be the person you would be if you were practicing being your best self. Don't try to rebuild this new world in the image of love this week. Don't try to fix racism or sexism or ableism this week. Just practice doing what you would do if you had committed to such things. You have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. Let us practice together. Let us grow together. Let us begin together. May it be so, and amen. We have a right to start somewhere and continue to grow. Let us grow together. Let us practice together. Let us begin together in love. Go in peace and go and be blessed as you are a blessing to others.
As we close our worship today, please remember to keep a careful eye out for emails from First Parish and follow us on social media so you can keep up with opportunities for connection with your faith community during these times of physical isolation. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to read your whole bell notes each week for links and opportunities to connect. When today's service ends, you're all invited to join us for our Zoom social hour, and you can find the link for that in your Saturday Bell Notes. Please remember, if you fall ill or need any pastoral support, to reach out to our pastoral care team and caring crew via phone or email. We also encourage all of you strongly to check in with your friends at First Parish and to double-check your own contact information in our online Realm directory if you have not done so recently. At this time, when we can only convene by phone call, email, and video chat, we want to be particularly sure that we know how to reach out to each other. I miss you all more every week. We always extinguish our chalice with words promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again. And I know that I and you and all of us are deeply committed to that promise, no matter how long it is until we are together again. So as we extinguish our chalice today, please join me from home in saying those words as printed in your emailed order of service, written by Unitarian Universalist Minister Reverend Elizabeth Selly Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the work I do speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the love I share speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak speak for me.
Thank you.